Yep, if you get your nice sports car on the road, just standing still. I mean, at this point, the only thing you can possibly ask is, where's my Netflix? No Netflix. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Stratified. Welcome to another beautiful day, and welcome to a new development car. Now, beside me is a very special to us, very special to me, 992 Carrera T. It's a 2024 model, and well, we just got it. We're going to do a whole series on this car. We're going to develop this car, and we're going to go through each aspect of what you might encounter when you're going to go, from a stock car to something a little bit more, which is our specialty. But I want to start by saying, isn't it beautiful? I want to start by saying that these Carreras that have the 3-liter engine from Porsche, the entry-level Carreras, if you will, offer tremendous opportunity for tuning and for improvement. And this all started with the 991.2 generation. So in 2017, Porsche made all of their vehicles, or all of their 911s that were not a GT car, have a turbocharger, or in this case, 2 turbochargers. So the 992 continued that same tradition, and that means that when you put a turbocharger on an engine, and it's a well-designed engine, just like these 982s have been, then you have a big pathway for improving the performance of the car. And it also gives you the ability to pick up a car that is a little bit smaller, that is a little bit, not smaller, the chassis is all the same, but it's a little bit simpler, is what I meant, a little bit lighter, and it gives you the ability to take it and really make it your own. And that's something that we specialize in. So let's talk a little bit about this particular car. First of all, it's the T model, and for 992, the T model is what you need to step into a manual transmission. So it has the base engine, which is 379 horsepower, and it has the base brakes in this case, but the T allows you to add a manual transmission, which increases the engagement that you have when driving the car, something that I personally really enjoy. It allows you to have a lighter chassis. This is only 3250 pounds or thereabouts. It gives you the limited slip differential that comes as part of the T package. Basically all the suspension goodies that you get on the S. So you get the bigger wheels, 20s in the front, 21s in the back, and you get that limited slip differential, you get the sport suspension and the sport exhaust. It's a really nice package, and it doesn't add a whole bunch of things that you can do later on. One of those things is, of course, upgraded performance. Now, the same base engine, the same 3-liter engine that's used in this car is also used in the S and the GTS, and therefore other variants that use that same engine, like the car. What they've done to increase the output of those cars from the factory by about 100 horsepower or so is that they've increased the size of the turbochargers, which, as you have guessed, actually bolt on to the back of the base cars with just a tune needed. So if you're looking for more power right out of the gate on a car like this, you can rest assured that the fuel system is up to snuff, that the clutch is up to snuff, that the engine is very strong, then it's overbuilt even for a GTS car, and that you know Porsche's reputation of track performance gives you the confidence that these vehicles can take the additional power. Even when you drive the base car, you can definitely feel that the chassis can take the additional power and still offer a very rewarding experience without being overwhelmed by power. So what we're going to do here is first we're going to take you on a little bit of a ride, and I'm going to show you how this car was spec'd. Then we're going to do a break-in oil change because we're just past the break-in period. And then after that, we're going to put this car on a dyno. And we're going to show you the power that it makes stock. And then we're going to go ahead and, without changing any components on the car, we're going to tune it and extract more performance without changing anything, hardware-wise, that is. Join me for a little drive to discuss the car a bit more. Join us on this series, and I hope you are just as excited as I am to delve deeper into this Guards Red Carrera T. How is it to drive the 992? Well, it's pretty comfortable. You do sit relatively low in the car, which can make it a little bit of a challenge to look over the dash. I said I'll talk about the spec on this car, so the only thing that I opted for that was performance oriented, because it only has the LSD and all the other suspension goodies. I opted for the rear wheel steer. So thought that's a worthwhile option. It wasn't too much more expensive. It doesn't add too much of the weight, especially because it's offset by the lithium battery. The rear wheel steer really helps the car come around corners nicely, especially at low speed. You really feel it. But the way that this engine responds and the way that Porsche had envisioned this is that they really wanted a linear, kind of like a naturally aspirated type of response. So you can see that the torque figures for this motor are at 330 foot-pounds, and then the power figure at 379 horsepower, and it revs all the way to 7,500 RPM. So it's a top-end motor, and the boost just kind of increases more and more as you move towards redline, because it is that feeling of rush to redline, which is very nice, kind of a naturally a throwback to natural aspiration. So it feels a little bit different than what you feel in perhaps a lot of the other modern turbocharged cars. When we're going to be increasing performance on this car, we're going to keep that ethos in mind of that flat torque curve with a accelerating power delivery towards redline, and of course increase it everywhere. So you guys will see that in the results. It's very much a car that you can enjoy. Not much rev hang at all in this motor. It's very nice. And this is one of the aspects that makes me, it's already so good from the factory, it makes me excited about what we were going to be achieving with this car when we turn it up. All right, now that we've got the 992T in the air, we can see some of the nice details here. So it's obvious that this is a 911. And if you've been underneath 911s, especially of the turbocharged variety, this is going to seem very familiar, especially of the water-cooled turbocharged variety. So we'll just kind of walk you through some of what you're going to see under here. If you ever poke your head underneath or have an interest in that. So first of all, this is the exhaust system. This is the sport exhaust system. It's got 2 valves up here which make it sound louder or quieter. It's actually quite a nice system. There isn't much restriction in here, just this muffler. The pipes are quite a large diameter, and these guys, these big canisters, are your catalytic converters. Now your catalytic converters are pretty massive on this car, and there's 2 of them. So they're not going to offer a lot of restriction. A lot of the modern catalytic converters that we're seeing are very large, just like these ones, and they don't hinder power much at all. So it's nice to see that from the factory. Now, in front of the catalytic converters, of course, we have our Borg-Warner turbochargers. These are the smallest of the 911 lineup because these are the base turbochargers. Still, they'll be able to provide us more than the base numbers once we turn them up a little bit. But they're nice and accessible. This is the outlet here going to the intercooler. There's a matching one on the other turbocharger. And these guys are what you'd be swapping out for S or GTS units when you want to step up the power to that level. Otherwise, fairly standard 911 fare. This is a throwback, or not a throwback, but harkens to Volkswagens and Audis. They even have a Volkswagen Audi temperature sensor here for the oil. So this is your oil pan. It is plastic. We're going to be draining the oil out of there in just a little bit. Moving forward from there, the subframe is all aluminum, high quality stuff. It's good to see that. The knuckles are high quality aluminum here. You have your suspension. This is the adaptive suspension. Again, it looks very, very nice and high quality. And this car has the 4-wheel steering. It is 4-wheel steering, but the rear wheel steer. So it's just 2 motors, one on each axle that act independently of one another and are tied together via software. And if you do want to remove these, it looks like it's just a rod that would replace them, and then you have fixed rear steering should you choose that for whatever reason. The brakes are pretty good. These are the same as the S. In the back, 330 millimeters, 4 pots. They have some nice cooling ducts up here. I love some of this work and some of the flatness that you get with the bottom of this car. This is very good for aerodynamics and efficiency. So that's very nice, and that same theme is carried to the front. So we've got pretty big air guides here in the front of the car to push cold air onto the calipers. These are the smallest brakes. We're probably going to be upgrading probably the rotor size and the pads and fluid to take this to the track. Probably going to be going to a 350 millimeter from the 330 that this car has, which should be enough even if you choose to keep the stock calipers, which are 4 pots in the front. They're quite large, and the shielding in around here, the metalwork, is moved out of the way to promote cooling. Again, a lot of aluminum arms up in the front. These can be replaced with 991 GT3 arms to give you more camber and more adjustability on the geometry of the suspension of the car. This is, of course, a 2-wheel drive car, so there's no drive shaft here, but you'd have one of those if this was a 4 model, so 4-wheel drive. And going to the front of the car, we've got a nice little lip here to keep the air stream efficient underneath the car. This car doesn't have the 3rd radiator because it is a T, but there is space should you want to put a 3rd radiator in here, just like the GTS and the higher trims have. So, Lego, and you can take a base car or a T like this, and then you can really make it your own, and that's what we're gonna do. So, without further ado, let's take the oil out, put in some fresh oil, and then we'll see what she makes on the dyno. We did the easy part of the oil change, and that is just drain the sump. We let it sit here overnight. So now it's time to get on top here and do the most exciting part, which is taking off that engine cover and getting to the oil filter. All right, This is all you get to see in the engine bay of these cars. You basically have your coolant cap and your oil fill cap. You've got your Porsche C40 specification here for the oil, which you'll see what we chose. There aren't too many C40 specified or rated oils right now in the market. We went with liquid moly. It's a popular choice. And what you need to do is basically you need to undo your coolant cap and your oil cap. And then you got to be careful here of your wing. People talk about putting a little masking tape or something like that on there. And now you need to pull this cover off here. 3.0. It's actually a nicely finished piece. While there's very little axes in here, you can see some neat parts, and I'm gonna highlight those. But in order to get to your oil filter, so your oil filter is actually underneath this fan with one pop-in piece and then two more there. And this is why you want to do your wing here, just in case you hit it with the fan and you scratch any paint, and you just move this to the side and look at that. Here's the oil filter. Okay, so this is the housing, the oil filter housing. You pop that off and you can start to see little bits and pieces of your motor. So you can see that this here is from your intercooler. As you know, the intercoolers are sitting right underneath this wing here. These are the inlets of air to the intercoolers, and this is the outlet from the intercooler, and it goes right into the throttle body, which you can just barely touch. You can just barely touch. It's funny because on the earlier Porsches, 996, 997, you can just stick your hand and still touch elements underneath the hood, but on this one, it's a little bit less accessible than that. But the important bit is that we've got the oil filter housing opened up. There's the lid for the oil filter housing. Okay, easy as that. Look inside, there's some small debris. The engine is still new and fresh, so you might get a couple of small pieces of debris in there during the break-in process, but overall, pretty clean filter. I mean, this has under 3,000 kilometers, well under the recommended change by Porsche for this. But I always like to do an earlier oil change, just so that we have some fresh oil in there, especially as we start tuning. OEM level quality moly filter. This is just something that you find at your auto parts store, or we get these for any of the cars from a distributor here that we need to do oil changes on. And the Top Tech 4110. So specifically the 4110 has the Porsche C40 designation. So it used to be A40 for Porsches. Now for these motors, it is C40. The designation is 5W40 is the correct weight. And when you're swapping out the filter, it is 9 liters that you need to put in. There is an oil temperature and level sensor, but there is unfortunately no dipstick. Now there is a torque spec on this, and it's actually written right on the housing itself. So you want to take it easy. It is a plastic housing. If you're used to doing these sort of housings, you know that you just need to basically have it seat that O-ring, so you can feel a gap between the housing and the top cover, and once that gap is down, you'll feel the housing stop, spinning, there it is, and that's it. You don't need to go crazy with that at all. It is nicely seated, and you need to fill it up with oil. You can put your beautiful engine cover back on. That's it. Take the car out for a drive, warm it up, check again, and top up if needed. just because doing just maintenance like we just done is not necessarily the most exciting thing. It makes you feel good. I also got a couple of small visual mods, and I know everyone does these. Genuine Porsche parts. That is going to look so much better. I've kind of always wanted to do this. So this is a super, super easy install because the parts just kind of clip in. And then you've got a little connector. Still an orange indicator, but so much cleaner. Now that we've got our oil change done, we've done some baseline pulls on the car, it's time to tune the car, and this is what our specialty is. We deliver our tunes, we flash the tunes on the car using a Cobb access port. This is a device that allows us to deliver tunes to the vehicle ECU, and it allows us to also get data from the vehicle ECU. Now, the device itself is pretty simple. You get something in a box like this. This can be done locally on our dyno, and this can be done remotely. We have customers both remotely and locally. Here you're gonna get a pouch, a box of accessories. In the pouch, you have your actual access port device, and it looks just like this. Now this is got a nice screen on it, but effectively there's a plug on here. You're gonna plug this into the OBD port just under the dash, and you only need to use it when you flash the tune onto the car or when you want to collect data. Otherwise, nothing has to be plugged in your car. You don't have to mount it on your dash unless you want to, and you want to view live parameters that are like boost pressures, temperatures, and so on. I know that the car has a lot of that instrumentation stock, so you may not want to mount this anywhere. It's completely up to you, but you definitely don't need to leave it on your dash or plugged into the car once the tune is flashed. So once you got that plugged in, grab the access port and you plug this into there and you key on. You'll see that that the access port turns on, and for the first time install, you can see here that you hit continue, and at this point you've got two options. You can read any sort of fault codes from the vehicle, and you can install the device. So we're just going to go ahead and install, and then it'll ask you to pick a tune. So this is where you pick the tune that you're going to install on the car. Now, on our car, we're going to start with a stage 0. The stage 0 is the stock OEM calibration, so you're not going to change any of the performance parameters here. You're not going to change the drivability. It's just a stage 0. You can also see that out of the box, it comes with these tunes that are made by Cobb themselves, stage 191 and a stage 193 octane. And of course, if you are getting your calibration, your tuning done through us, we will send you map files that you load onto your access port, and then you're going to see them here and be able to select them. This one just came straight out of the box. I haven't had a chance to build our own calibration on here, so that's why you don't see it. But once you load a stratified tune, you're going to see stratified and then the tune on there, and you can select it. So we're going to go ahead and select stage 0. We're going to go ahead and start the installation process. It is also normal that during the flashing process, you'll see some additional warning lights on your dash. Those do clear up once the flashing process has been completed. So that's not something to be concerned with.
Several days later.
spent quite a bit of time dialing in the power curve on this car, and I'm very happy with the results. I'm very impressed at just how much performance you can add with just tuning alone on this turbo cars, which is really wonderful. Now, these thick lines, this is torque in blue and this is horsepower in red here. And we'll go over the numbers, but what I wanted to highlight is that you can see that both torque and horsepower have this increase, and of course they're related to one another, but have this nice increase that is sustained throughout the entire RPM range. So it's not like we're just getting some peak torque or just some peak horsepower. Everywhere throughout the RPM range, the car is significantly punchier and significantly faster. So this graph puts it with respect to RPM up to 7,000, but if I were to show you the same two graphs in terms of time, you'll see that the tuned car completes this full sweep, it's a third gear sweep, in 6.1 seconds, and the untuned, the stock car, takes significantly longer, and if I could just get my screen to cooperate here, 7.94, so basically 8 seconds. So we've gone from a full loaded dyno third gear sweep of 8 seconds into one that takes just over 6 seconds. That's essentially a 25% faster car with absolutely no hardware changes and just our calibration installed on the car via the Cobb access port. And to look at the numbers now, so the peak wheel horsepower that we had before were 369. That's on the stock car, on the stock calibration. This is still a stock car otherwise. And torque was 350. Now with the tuning applied, we gained 88 wheel horsepower and 130 foot-pounds of torque to the wheels. So now we've gone from these numbers here to the new numbers, 458 wheel horsepower and 480 wheel torque. So this is all done through a combination of management of boost pressures, of ignition timing, and of fueling for the most part. So these are things that we've optimized on the dyno, and the results speak for themselves. We made sure that the car is resilient. So what we also do is we stress test the tune on the dyno. So that means that we've taken this car not just in third gear here, we've taken it fourth gear, we've taken it well over 200 kilometers an hour while loaded on the dyno, and we're going to take it on the road here shortly, and also on the track to also validate how the tune performs. But it's looking good. It's looking very good. And what's even more exciting is that this is kind of the beginning, and there's more to come. There's parts that you can bolt on to increase airflow, and there's also fuel. This is on 93 octane, so there's also fuel such as E85 that this fuel system will take, that will allow us to increase power even further on E85 without changing hardware. So we're just getting started here, and if you have a base Carrera or an S or a GTS, regardless, anything with this 3-liter engine, whatever your car came with stock, we can go above and beyond that and really enhance the performance from there. Before we leave the chart area here, I wanted to show you guys something that's interesting. So once again, you'll recognize our tuned curves, horsepower in red and torque in blue here. We have our stock car, which is these little dots, and you can see that it's a little bit higher than this other curve that I've added, which is a 991.2. So the 991.2 and the 992, they share the turbochargers and they share the base engine architecture, but as you know, they've made some improvements, headers, the piezo injectors and intercoolers, the main ones on the 992, and you can see that the 992 up top delivers a little bit more power, and you can actually hear it in the tone of the motor as well than the 991.2, and it delivers a little bit more torque down low. However, the differences between them is relatively small, stock for stock, honestly, in terms of power. However, this means that you can take this 991.2 and give it pretty much the same level of performance via tuning as the 992. So you can really equalize the tune performance between the two, because they have a very similar turbocharger and a very similar base engine. As you know, the 991.2 can also take the GTS turbo upgrade and go from there, just like the 992. So if you've got a 991.2 or a 992, you've got a prime vehicle for tuning, for calibration, and for more performance, and it can easily keep up with its bigger brothers when tuned. So we're just gonna warm up the car here and demonstrate just how willing and sprightly it pulls all the way to red line. It's once tuned, it just really wants to pull. That's third gear. This is fourth. Over 200 kilometers an hour. You can see how quickly it just got there, and just how willing the chassis or the engine is now that it's calibrated. Look at that. It just pulls all the way to red line. You can feel it, you can hear it. Yeah, that's it's just come alive with the tuning. Can't wait to take this on the road next. Oh yeah, this is a different beast altogether. Wow. Wow, how transformative tuning is. Oh, you just breathe on the throttle and it just goes. Oh yes. Oh yes, 911s are so good pulling out of corners. The additional power, it's all there. It's all there. It's just, you just lean into it and make sure you're assertive and aware. The car was quick before, but now it's not just quick, now it's fast. I'm gonna have to be looking for some brake upgrades for the track, because this thing's gonna be properly fast. And the fact that it pulls all the way to the top end is so satisfying. No runaway condition, no. Oh yes. I mean, you know, I hate to say that this is the way the car should come from the factory. Obviously Porsche know what they're doing, and they have to have the hierarchy of their vehicles, but now it's, as an owner, you're gonna enjoy this, properly enjoy this, whether you have a PDK or a manual transmission. This is really good.